Okay, let's take a look at these examples and how to write chemical formulas from these ions. Note that now I have what are called polyatomic ions. For these, you will have to memorize the charge on them and the names. You will have to learn them because you can't look at the periodic table and say, oh, you can't find SO4 in the periodic table to guide you. Therefore, you have to kind of remember the charges on these. There's a list for you that I have posted in which there's all of the polyatomic ions that you have to memorize and the names and the charges. So please do so. Okay, you treat the polyatomic ions just as you would if I just had one element there. In fact, if you want, you can just replace this by an X with a 2- charge. And then work the formula with the X and then replace it with the SO4. Same thing here. I could do this with an A, 3-. Okay? So I have sodium plus and an X, 2-. You will have to treat this as a unit, okay? Because that 2- charge is over this whole thing. That's why I say replace it with an X. The same thing, this 3- charge is over this whole unit here. That's why I just replaced it by an A. Now remember that sodium is a +1 ion because it's group 1. It will always form a +1. Do not change the charge on sodium. Calcium is a group 2 element, will always form a 2+. Therefore, do not change the charge on the calcium. Okay? So now, this is just like what we did earlier. I have a 2- charge here and a +1 charge here. So if I take that charge and I bring it down here as a subscript for sodium, and if I take this charge and I bring it down here as a subscript for my X, I would have Na2X1, but I don't really write the 1, so it would just be Na2 and X. And now I can go back and put in my SO4, which I called X. So Na2SO4. And I have, now if I had 2 of these, I would put a parentheses and I put the 2, but I don't. So I just leave it as this. Now, let's do the charge check. This SO4 has a 2- charge. Sodium has a +1 charge. The total positive charge is +2 because I have 2 sodiums times 1. I have 1 SO4. 1 times -2 gives me a -2. So these, if I add these, will give me a 0 charge. So I've done this correctly. And I will just erase these to just have the correct formula here without the charges. Once again, notice that the positive ion is listed first, and then comes my negative ion. Okay, so let's look at this one. It's a little more difficult. So I have calcium, which is a 2+ ion, and I have the phosphate polyatomic ion, which is a 3-. And I have taken A and I have substituted the PO4 with it. So A is equal to PO4. Now once again, I have calcium 2+ and A 3-. I can take the charge of 3A and bring it down as a subscript down here. For calcium, I can take the charge of calcium and bring it down here as a subscript for A. So calcium 3, A2. Okay, now I can come here and substitute my PO4. So calcium 3, I put parentheses for these, so PO4, and then I have to put this 2 here. Don't forget that. So this is my formula. Let's double check the charges. Calcium always has a +2. PO4 has a 3-. It always does, because you need to remember that. Okay, 3 calcium ions times +2 gives me a +6, and then 2 phosphate ions, each 3- gives me a -6. So if I add these together, I get a charge, an overall charge of 0, which is my goal. I have written this formula correctly. Okay, I will erase this, and then we will work on some naming of the compounds.